All right, man, welcome. We are in week 2 and we are talking about limiting beliefs and how they affect our life. So behind every area that we are struggling with, every area of difficulty, every area where we feel like we don't measure up, I can guarantee you there is a mindset, there is a belief system, and there is a perspective behind that struggle. And it is the mindset and the belief that actually keeps us stuck inside of that situation. It also keeps us in this revolving door of returning back to the situation, falling for the same problems, the same mistakes, and they just repeatedly happen over and over because of the limiting belief that we have inside of our mind. So we're going to continue on our topic. To recap just a little bit, I thoroughly established how there is a sabotaging influence that has happened since the beginning of time and creation. And that influence, of course, is to sabotage. Now, that same influence happens inside of our hearts and inside of our minds, and we begin to engage in what I call self-sabotage, which is shooting ourselves in the foot. And that is allowing ourselves to be in situations and places and allowing ourselves to make choices that actually bring us a lot of pain. And we are personally responsible for those things. And so my desire in all of this is for, of course, a light bulb moment to come on. And that is a light bulb would come, you'd get illumination, revelation that you might be causing your own pain. And that you might be shooting your own selves in the foot. And that only a mindset shift or a change in perspective and begin to conquer and overcome these limiting beliefs, that's the only thing that is going to bring you victory. So Solomon said this, it is the little foxes that spoil the vines. Okay, we can read that statement and just breeze on by, but the reality is when we dig deep and we begin to understand what exactly does that mean. And of course, to spoil the vine is to cause a rot and decay, deterioration. That the fruit that's manifested on the vine would begin to spoil, rot, and disintegrate. And what does that? Solomon said, the little foxes. And so what I want you to understand with this is that it's the little thoughts. And it's the little belief systems and the paradigms that we hold on to and that we believe as truth and is actually spoiling the fruit inside of our lives. Now, it's only recognizing this process that this is the way this is taking place inside of my life that is going to change. And that is we begin to look at the little foxes, if you will, and the little thoughts, the little belief systems that are bringing us a lot of pain. And that is inside of our frame, our family, faith, fitness, and finances. There is going to be little foxes. There's going to be little foxes inside of our marriage, little foxes inside of relationships, little foxes inside of our mindset, inside of our spiritual life, and all these different things. And what they are they're detrimental belief systems that when we carry them out or we allow them to limit us in some way or fashion, they bring us pain. Now, we may not notice this because the pain may be very superficial at first, right? It's kind of like the frog in the pot. That the heat gets turned up at various moments and the frog don't recognize that he's being cooked. And so it is with the little foxes, the little thoughts, little belief systems that begin to be entertained and they begin to manifest inside of our life and they begin to bring us gradual pain and then that pain increases in a more severe fashion. And so what I want to do through this process is for you to begin to identify those little foxes, those little things that are tripping you up. Now, it's not going to be very hard to identify. We avoid identifying them because we don't want to pull our heads out of our hind end and we don't want to face the truth and we want to rationalize some of our behavior and we want to continue on that path because we are under the delusion that it brings pleasure when it's actually part of inflicting pain upon us. And so looking at those areas and asking ourselves, where in my frame, where in my family, faith, fitness, and finances are these little foxes manifesting and what kind of pain are they bringing me? So we have this, inside of a relationship, a marriage relationship. A lot of Christian men struggle with pornography. And this is a little fox. And that is that we give in to lust and perversion, and that little thing begins to grow and it begins to expand inside of our lives until we think that we're missing something, and we're contemplating cheating and stepping out of our marriage and all these different things. But what you could trace everything back to is the little fox. Okay, and that is the little thought, the little belief system, when carried out to the extreme, manifested terrible, terrible, painful results. And we don't understand this, that nothing is destroyed overnight. And that is, we look at men who've fall from grace, great men of God who were once preachers and did all these great miraculous things, not understanding behind the scenes, they have been undergoing a deterioration process. Now, when they get exposed and it comes to the media, because the media loves to, kill the wounded and loves to shine the spotlight on a Christian who has fallen, look, and do all these articles, and it's just front page and center and everybody knows about it. But the reality is that there was little foxes long before the big exposure took place. And that if they begin to deal with those little things, those little heart beliefs, those little situations, little insecurities, little feelings of not being enough, they would have never grown to the extent where it became what could stop it dead in its tracks. And so that is really what we want to accomplish inside of our lives, is that we don't want these little things, these little private sins, to manifest in a very public display of shame, right? And so that is that we begin to deal with these along the way. We begin to be honest. We begin to tell the truth. And we deal with these things so we don't go down into a big progression where something big and drastic begins to happen. So it's the little foxes. Now, about this is the idea of them being a mindset and a belief system. That is that we all have a perspective, and we all believe that our perspective is fact, right? This is why eyewitness testimony is some of the worst, right? Because if you had 3 eyewitness testimonies, you would get different conclusion depending upon the perspective of the eyewitness, right? Because each one has their own experiences, their own biases, their own prejudices, if you will. And what it comes down to is they have their own interpretation and their own worldview, and they're seen from their perspective. Okay? And so these belief systems and limiting beliefs, they come from our point of view. Now, we like to think that our opinion is fact and it's based upon truth and all these different things. But a lot of the times we're just telling ourselves a story. And it's a story that we believe hook, line, and sinker, and we replay it over and over, and we tell ourselves this lie repeatedly, and it becomes normal for us. But the reality is that our perspective is just simply our fact, is our fact, but it is not fact. Okay, it is our truth of how we perceive things, but it's not the overall truth. Okay, and understanding this is really pulls us to understand that we are shaped by our experiences, and that some of us have had very negative experiences. I know I have. And these experiences have marred the way that we see the world. They have marred the way that we receive relationships. They have marred the way we understand and perceive God. And they have marred the way we walk in a financial stability and material wealth. They have marred every single thing that is our frame, family, faith, fitness, and finance, and cause us to see things through this dirty lens, okay? Through this dirty lens of our experiences, our paradigms, and our beliefs. Now, why is this important? Because we can't rise above our perceptions, right? And we can't rise above our limiting beliefs. Now, we may for a very short moment of time begin to excel beyond our ceiling and beyond our beliefs. But our core beliefs will bring us back to the place where we are comfortable and where we maintain some sort of order, inside of the chaos. So that is important because we have to challenge these limiting beliefs because we're not going to rise above them. And that is kind of where you are at this current moment. It may be mediocre, it may be comfortable, it may whatever, but that is the ceiling that you have placed for your life. Now you try as you will to try to bust beyond these barriers and bust beyond these ceilings. And what begins to happen, as you've noticed inside of your life, that you revert back to the same behaviors and the same patterns and the same routines, and you go back to what is considered normality, right? And that is because we have beliefs that are motivating these behaviors. And we've tried behavior modification, and that is that we're going to change our outside behavior, but we're not going to change the inside, the mindset in the heart that is motivating these behaviors. Now, I think it's an extremely frustrating experience to begin to do behavior modification. And that is to set up all these exterior things to where you have all this accountability and all this structure and all this framework. Men do pornography a lot. I've noticed they have all these programs, and they have someone hold them accountable, and they set up this frame and the structure to kind of keep them straight. Now, what would be better would be a heart and a mindset shift and change, right? Begin to challenge these limiting beliefs that are motivating this behavior, and bring it to the point, of course, where you wouldn't want that as strongly as you do, okay? That you want something stronger and better, and that you have this competing desires, and the strong one wins, right? That would be a far better way to do things. But we go through this behavior modification, and we white knuckle it, and we're going to try, and we're going to do this. And what we don't do is go to the root of the problem, right? And what we do is we deal with fruit issues. Fruit issues are addictions, pornographies, perversions, everything that men struggle with, insecurities and fears, and all of these different things. These are just a manifestation of fruit. Behind that fruit is a core belief system that you hold on to inside of your heart and inside of your mind that manifests that fruit. And so we come and we see the fruit, and the fruit looks nasty, and we chop it off, and we're like, oh, we don't like this behavior. We're going to do everything that we can to not manifest this fruit, not understanding that you are feeding it from the source. And the source is the mindset and the belief system that you have that is feeding it. It's called your limiting belief. So these beliefs, they create the parameters for our life. And that is, we rarely, and I say rarely because it hardly ever happens, that you rarely rise or you rarely break those barriers or boundaries. And so this is why it's important to deal with the core heart beliefs, what you actually believe to be true in your heart. Now, you can say that you love yourself and you feel worthy and all of these different things, but if at your core and in your heart you don't actually believe those things, then you see what I'm talking about here. So our beliefs, they create the barriers and the boundaries of our life. Now, the world and its systems deals with all the exterior things. Behavior modification, trying to change your habits and do all of these different things without dealing with the what's feeding it. And that is these core issues of our limiting beliefs. So, therapists call this thinking errors. And these thinking errors affect every single area of our life. And we can guarantee that we have thinking errors, limiting beliefs inside each area. And it's going to be a very frustrating experience to try to change and transform and try to grow in these areas, grow in my marriage, grow in my relationships, grow in my intimacy with God, and all of these things, while I hold on to the detrimental beliefs that have got me to the place to begin with. Okay? So our thinking errors, they affect our lives. Think about this. If you think that you are not enough and that you are not worthy, how is that going to manifest inside of your brain? And that is, how are you going to show up inside of your marriage if you believe that you're inadequate, you are unable, you are not enough, you are inferior, and all of these different things. How is that going to manifest inside of a relationship? Insecurity, fear, jealousy, control, and all of this comes from the root of just not understanding your worth and your value, and just not feeling adequate or enough on the inside. Okay? And how would this manifest inside of your business? How would you show up at your workplace if you feel that you are not able and that you are inadequate and you're not worthy and you're not enough, right? You would show up like a victim, like you're totally ill-equipped to handle the situations that are taking place at work. And you'll begin to hide and sedate and begin to do all of these different things because you firmly believe in your heart, in your thinking, that you are inadequate and that you are not enough. Okay? How would this belief set manifest inside of your finances? Well, if you don't think you're enough, if you feel like you're fully inadequate and that you don't have what it takes and you're not able, I can guarantee it's going to affect your financial future. You're going to take that victimhood into every single area of your life. And it's going to begin to manifest its nasty fruit. Okay? Once we begin to entertain the idea that we are not enough and that we are inadequate and we're not worthy and all of these different things, then we begin this sabotaging effect like I've already talked about. And that is, if you don't feel like you deserve something, you'll make sure that you don't get it. And if you do get it, you'll make sure that you lose it. Okay? Process of what happens with fearful, insecure, and unworthy men. Okay? This is just what begins to happen. And we say, you know what? We're not good enough for an amazing relationship and intimacy. We're not good enough to be connected with God and have this awesome relationship. And we're not good enough to begin to manifest the best physical health that we possibly can. And we're not good enough for all of these different things. And our frame, our family, faith, fitness, and finance begin to slowly deteriorate based upon the limiting belief that I am inadequate and I am not worthy. This is the way this stuff works. How about the perspective that you don't have any control over your life? Now, this is a very powerful limiting belief that says that you do not have control over your life. This will cause you to be a victim to circumstance and determinism, and that you don't have a choice in the matter, and that you are bound. And this is a common Christian term. I am bound, inside of sin, and I am in a stronghold. And we give all of this terminology to our limiting belief is that, I'm in this stronghold and I am bound, and I'm praying to God to free me, and someday He'll free me, right? But the reality is that you are in a limiting belief that says that you are bound. You are in a limiting belief that says that you don't have control over your life, and that you already believe it up here. And putting a future day of deliverance has already sealed the deal for you that you're never going to be free because you don't believe that you are free already. Okay? And these are the limiting beliefs that really sink in. And it's hard to really understand them sometimes because they're masquerade as something spiritual. Right? They masquerade as something godly, or something that might have come from the Bible, or that men use to manipulate and control people and have spiritual control over others, right? So we don't ultimately recognize them in a very quick fashion. So if I have the belief that I don't have any control over my life, right? Then I take that mindset and I take that belief and I take that into my marriage, right? And I don't have any control over the intimacy inside of my marriage. I don't have any influence over the communication. I don't have any influence of the amount of love that begins to flow inside of my home, right? And this negative belief system begins to grow and to manifest, and you take it inside of your frame. What begins to happen when we think that we don't have control inside of our relationship with God? Like, we need to thoroughly understand this important revelation that came to me. And it was that I'm as close to God as I want to be. And I'm as close to God as I believe myself to be, right? Knowing and understand that He dwells and He lives inside of us, and that He's not far from us, and that there's nothing on God's part that needs to change. There's something on my part that needs to change. And I need to thoroughly understand that it's my responsibility, and that I have a choice about how I feel and what I believe about God inside of my life, okay? What happens when we feel like we're out of control inside of our finances? That we don't have control about, getting more money or storing money away, and begin to have a savings account, an emergency account, and begin to save for bigger and better things, What begins to happen inside of that if we feel like we have no control? Things begin to deteriorate, fall apart, right? If we feel like we don't have control over certain situations, in our household. Now, I need to say this because there are some things that we're in control of, okay? It's important to get that. If you want to understand that thoroughly, go back into the lessons that I've talked about already in acceptance. But understanding this, there are so many things that are inside the realm of your influence and your control. And your life is your responsibility, okay? And getting that belief in here and releasing it and letting go of this false belief of I'm not in control of my life needs to fall to the ground, to begin to expand inside of those areas. What about this one? You should always do what makes you happy. This is a really good one. We're under the illusion, first of all, that God is somehow concerned with our happiness first and foremost. And that He is up there and He's thinking about all the ways that He can make us happy, right? But what we don't understand, part of growth and maturity, expansion, and all of these things is experiencing resistance. And that is that we're going to go through experiences that don't make us very happy, right? We're going to go through situations that are not very joyful. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't have joy in the storm and that we can't have fulfillment and inner peace during these difficult times. But the reality is that you're going to go through things that are not going to make you happy, okay? Now, if you think that God is highly concerned about your happiness, and that is that He is highly concerned about your comfort, and you being like having a smooth sailing life, then you're going to be set up for failure, and you're going to have this false hope and an expectation of God, and you're going to ask and require Him to do things that He's just simply not going to do. So understanding this is that God's not highly concerned about my happiness. More so, He's concerned about my overall fulfillment. And that is that I begin to experience fulfillment inside of my life. And sometimes that means taking the unhappy road, right? This whole process of going to heaven is a bumpy road, right? But we all want to go, right? We all want to go to heaven, but the path to heaven is through earth. And that is, we must go through much tribulation to enter the kingdom of God. And we should thoroughly expect that there is going to be hard and difficult times, okay? And this expectation of that God is somehow like a genie and He's here to magically manifest my wishes and my desires, and that He somehow conforms to my wants, definitely needs to be abandoned for true spiritual life to begin to grow and develop. What begins to happen if we take this mindset that I should always do what makes me happy? Okay, what if we take that mindset inside of our relationships? What does that look like? I don't know. Maybe screwing the next door neighbor looks like it's going to make you happy for a moment. I'm not sure what your desires are or what you think is going to make you happy, right? And so understanding this, that we have the perception of that there's going to be things, I need this to make me happy, and I need to do this. My heart wants this, and this is going to somehow make me happy, when reality, that is just simply not the case. That is not any form of truth. So, moving on. If I do everything right, everything will turn out great. And this is really negating the fact of human experiences. And that is that we are all going to suffer loss. We all are going to experience pain, heartbreak. We are going to experience adverse situations that come upon us. We might be victimized in some way. Someone might hurt us. We might get physically injured. We might end up with our fingers chopped off. I don't know, right? But one thing I do know for sure is that there are certain things that are a given, and they are going to happen to you. And that is that you are going to experience pain, loss in some way, and that you are going to suffer from the death of a loved one, that you are going to attend some funerals inside of your life, and that you are going to have ailments inside of your body. And as you get old, things are going to ache and things are going to fall apart, and you're going to begin to deteriorate and disintegrate mentally and inside of your health. So there's a lot of things in life that are very painful, but they're actually guaranteed to happen. Okay? And that being said is that we think that if we do everything right, we have our I's dotted and our T's crossed, that somehow this pain we will not experience this pain, right? Or this pain won't happen to us. And really it sets us up to this false belief and the false expectation once again, that if I'm living right, if I'm thinking right, and if I'm making positive deposits inside of my life, that somehow everything is going to go smoothly and everything is going to happen my way, and I'm not going to experience any pain or discomfort. When the reality is that you can have the right beliefs and the right mindset, and it begin to give peace, love, and joy, and everything begin to happen on the inside of you. And you can be having the outside fall apart, right? You can be undergoing a physical ailment, right? I got COVID just like everybody else. I was down for 10 days suffering. There was a point in there where I'm like, this really sucks. Like, I just kind of wish I would die. The thought began to creep inside of my mind. So knowing, understanding this is that we are all going to experience these different situations that come inside of our life. Okay? And that if we think that just because we do everything right, that everything's going to go smooth, we are in for a shaking and a rude awakening. Life is supposed to be easy, right? There's another limiting belief. Or on the flip side, life is supposed to be hard. Now, just because we experience these pains and these difficulties doesn't mean that we can't triumph victoriously over them. It doesn't mean that we have to allow them to push us down and to cause us to sink down in the pit and pain and all of these different things, right? And so knowing and understanding this is that not only is it an extreme to say, life is supposed to be hard or life is supposed to be easy. There's extremes in either way. Life is going to be life. It's going to be filled with ups and downs. It's going to be, there's going to be times where you feel like you're on top of the world, and there's going to be times where you feel like you're in the pit. And that's just the reality of life. It's just, it's ups and downs. But maintaining peace, walking in love, and being connected to God through all of these things is what brings us to this baseline of steadiness that we are going to press forward, and we're going to continue on, and we're not going to be thoroughly elated in the ups, and we're not going to be deflated in the downs, right? We're going to stay steady, we're going to be calm, and we're going to have this really stoic type demeanor that is going to carry us forward in what we want. So this one limiting belief I find to be very detrimental, and that is the I'm powerless belief. Now, a lot of this comes from excessive spirituality, that we are nothing and that we are a worm and all of these different things. Not understanding that this humility at the beginning I find to be very beneficial, and that we need to be thoroughly acquainted with our frailties and our weaknesses. We need to thoroughly understand the gift that is being provided to us and that we can't earn it in any way or fashion. And we begin to experience humility, and we begin to step into the offer that God has for us, and that's good. We need to understand our unworthiness in that sense. But all of that humility is supposed to bring us to a place of honor. And that is understanding that we were once unworthy, but now we are worthy. And we were once powerless, now we are powerful. I was once incapable of doing a lot of things, but now have been thoroughly equipped with the influence and the power of God operating in my life. I am now able. And so what a lot of people do is they get stuck in this. And that is, they get stuck in powerlessness, and they take that mentality that I'm just powerless over all these things that are taking place in my life. And what we do in a pious manner is that we go, okay, well, I'm just going to give it to God, and He'll do with whatever He'll do, and I'll just sit around and wait, and I'm powerless to change any of these things. And what that keeps us is in a state of inactivity, right? And it has this spiritual guise to it, like it's going to be somehow beneficial for our life. When in actuality, we're not operating in faith anymore, okay? And we expect God to come through for us, and we're just going to be sitting there, okay? I had this situation happen long ago when I lost my job in construction, and it was devastating. The economy collapsed, 2008, 2009, within that range. Losing everything, house, cars, all this stuff, right? Just everything just was devastating. Everything was gone, right? And I began to, instead of networking and connecting, man, I had a big network. I had 200, 300, I don't know, 400 people. I'm not really sure of connectedness where I probably could have found a job in a very quick fashion. But what I did was sit on my butt and begin to pray to God for a miracle, right? Not understanding that I was just allowing everything to just fall away. Now, the miracle could have been me getting up off my butt and begin to pull within my network and begin to, instead of sinking down into despair and just sitting waiting, I could have been reaching out and doing all of these different things that brought about the change, right? But instead, I was waiting and praying, right? And all of this sounds spiritual. I can't change. How about that one? And I've been doing this thing so long. I'm 40, 50 years old, and I can't teach an old dog new tricks and all these different things, when the reality is you can change at any moment at any time. Now, there is a process to change. It doesn't happen quickly. But the fact of the matter is that this old dog right here can learn new tricks, right? And I can begin to develop new patterns and new routines inside of my life. What begins to happen when we believe this lie of I can't change? We take that into our marriage, right? And it might be mediocre. And what do we say? It was like, nah, I can't change. And we don't understand the things that require to have an amazing marriage, deposits and all of these things, that we can begin to do those things and begin to make deposits and fruit, and it can manifest and it can grow, right? And that's all within the realm of our control. But when we lie to ourselves and we tell ourselves that we can't change, that's it. Growth and expansion is done. Like whenever we tell ourselves these lies inside of our frame, that is, I don't have control over this, that I am powerless over this situation, or I can't change this situation, all change, all growth and expansion stops. You have hit your ceiling, and you have believed your limited lies and beliefs, and there you are, stuck in your mediocreness, okay? Once we begin to challenge those and say, you know what, I'm not powerless. I can change. I have the same spirit that rose Jesus Christ from the dead dwelling on the inside of me, okay? And that I am more than a conqueror, and that I am an overcomer, right? And we begin to look at a challenge in a more different fashion, and then we begin to rise to that level of those beliefs. And those are empowering beliefs. Empowering. I'm not strong enough. I am not strong enough. This once again has a spiritual overtone to it, because we take us back to the beginning of our relationship with God. I think it's probably important during this process of humility, of understanding that we are not strong enough. And what I mean by that is that when we look at the glory of God and we look at perfection and we look at measuring up to the perfect standard, I think we need to come to the conclusion that we are not strong enough, right? But once again, that mentality of humbleness, of I'm not strong enough, was meant to lead us to now I am able. Okay, and that is we come to him and say, God, I'm not strong enough to defeat this problem. This problem is overcoming me. It's kicking my butt. This sin is causing very detrimental effects in my life, and I'm not strong enough. That mindset leads to now I am able. Now I have the ability to have the Spirit of God operating inside of my life. Okay, and that leads to extreme empowerment. That leads to I am strong enough. 2 more. Whatever will be, will be. Okay, sarah, right? And so we have this belief in so many areas, and this belief in faith is, if God wants me to have it, He'll give it to me, right? And it sounds pretty pious. It sounds like it might be spiritual in some way. If God wants to give it to me, whatever will be, right? And this is just a lackadaisical way of thinking. That somehow a good marriage, whatever will be. And if it's in the cards for me to have an amazing marriage, then it will happen. If not, que sera, sera. And that I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to, not think about how I'm going to create it, how I'm going to invest, how the Spirit of God is going to move through me, right? None of those things, just que sera, sera. And we look at our spiritual life inside of our frame, and we look at what we want to be in God and how connected and all this different stuff, and we want to be a powerful man of God. And if we come at this belief with que sera, sera, whatever will be, right? We set ourselves up to sit in a stupor. And if we tack our finances in the same way, and we say, you know what, I don't have any goals. I'm not thinking about living below my means. I'm not thinking of making an investment so I can send my soldiers my money, send my soldiers out to work to fight some battles for me and send them out and bring some money back to me, right? We're not thinking about all these things, and growing, expanding inside of wisdom like the Bible tells us to. We just go, que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. And what we don't understand is that we need to align ourselves with truth, and that the practicing of principles is the alignment of ourselves with truth. And that is, there are certain things, certain requirements for me to expand and grow in each area of my life. And that is just like baking something, just like creating a meal. There are certain ingredients involved in those things, and they don't que sera, sera themselves together. Okay? And then it don't just magically form. It comes through my willingness to do what is required, okay? And to begin to apply the correct ingredients to get the results that I am looking for. Depending upon fate to drop something in your lap. Now, I believe that this happens in a certain sense, and that is as we're going along this journey and along this path, God begins to drop tools inside of our laps, and He begins to equip us with belief systems and mindsets, and we begin to get thoroughly equipped to begin to grow and expand in each area of our life. So as far as God providing the equipment, I'm 100% on board. As far as God providing everything and just dropping it into our laps, and that we're somehow these entitled, spoiled children, and that God is some rich parent and He just pays for everything, gets us to Ivy League college and just sets us up, and we have all the money in the world and all these different things. This is just not reality. And this is not the way God operates. So coming out of this whatever will be mentality. Lastly, I am what I am. Sounds like Popeye, right? I am what I am, and that's what I am, right? And we don't understand that we are creatures that are growing and expanding and evolving. And that is what I was a couple years ago. I'm not that man today. I've experienced multiple communications from God repeatedly over and over that has directed my life, that has changed my character, and has given me new belief system and new mindsets, and I am on this process of growth and development. Now, I don't even know the Tim from 2 years ago. I barely know the Tim from a year ago, okay? Now that's understanding this, that we are in a process of evolving, growing, expanding inside of God. And we are on a journey that is for our spiritual enlightenment and development and our growth and expansion. Okay? And what I am is just a cop-out. We can be, I am what God has created me, forming me, and fashioning me to be. Okay? I am what I am is a very fixed mindset. All of these things are fixed mindsets. That is, I'm powerless. Fixed mindset. It's over. It's done. Growth, expansion, done. I can't change. Growth, expansion, done. I'm not strong enough. Boom. All of these are fixed mindsets that keeps us stuck in the mediocreness of which we are. Okay? Now it's only believing the opposite, challenging that narrative, and begin to say the opposite. I am powerful inside of God, and I can change, and I can transform, and I can begin to have positive belief systems. He's the one that makes me strong enough, okay? And He will make and create me what I ought to be. Now, all of these are the flip side, reverse mindset that empower and they cause growth and expansion. These are awesome realities. I got so much more, so I'm looking forward to tomorrow. We're going to continue on this topic, but we're ultimately going to come to how to expel these nasty limiting beliefs and just kick them out of our lives. We'll get there soon. All right, brothers, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.